Hello, my dear ladies. It's me, Menopause Taylor again. I'm here to continue with our unit on heart attack. If you're just joining me, you should know that this is the third video in this series on heart attack. I always present my videos in order. All you have to do in order to really understand everything fully is to watch them in order. So here's where we are. In video 160, you learned that there is much more hype about breast cancer than there is about heart attack, despite the fact that the biggest risk for the vast majority of women is a heart attack. And in video 161, you learned that heart attacks are caused by a kink or a roadblock in an artery that supplies your heart with blood and oxygen. Today, I'm going to teach you about the substances that cause the kink or roadblock in your arteries. Everything I teach you will always be stepwise. That will make it very easy for you. This video tutorial will cover the same section of chapter 28 on heart attack as we did last week. Regardless of whether you have the first edition or the new second edition, it's the section under the heading Causes. Chapter 28, the whole chapter is on heart attack. It's important for you to watch this video because it will help you understand in very plain terms the differences in the fats that contribute to heart attacks. All fats are not the same. In the last video, I showed you this. It demonstrates the progressive occlusion of an artery with a substance that ultimately creates a kink or roadblock that interferes with the blood flow to your heart. If the kink or the roadblock becomes severe enough to block blood flow to your heart completely, the part of the heart beyond the blockage dies. And that's a heart attack. So what is this stuff? All the stuff that causes the roadblock, what is it? That's what you'll learn today. Well, the short answer to the question of what is this stuff is that it's fat. But there's more to it than that. That's because there are different kinds of fat, and they do not all have the same effect on your heart arteries. So I'm going to tell you about their differences. There are 3 different types of fats that are important to your understanding of heart attack. They are cholesterol, lipoproteins, and triglycerides. So let's address them one by one. The first one is cholesterol. Now, your body makes cholesterol. It's a vital substance that exists in every cell of your body. The cholesterol you eat is minor in comparison to the cholesterol your body produces. When you get your blood drawn for cholesterol, it gives you the total cholesterol in your body. It includes the cholesterol your body makes and the cholesterol you eat in your diet. That's why it's important to be fasting when you get your blood drawn for any of the blood tests we'll address today. The upper limit of cholesterol that is considered normal varies depending on your diet. Why? Because the only foods that contain cholesterol are foods that come from animals. Just as your body produces cholesterol, all animals' bodies produce progesterol. If you're vegan and you eat nothing that comes from an animal, your cholesterol may be half as much as if you eat any animal products at all. So it might be 200 if you eat animal products and only 100 if you don't. And labs in different countries are skewed to accommodate the normal diet in that country. So the upper limit of normal of 199 milligrams per deciliter in the United States isn't really normal. It's just what is acceptable for the American diet that is full of meat and dairy. By that American scale, a cholesterol of 200 to 239 is moderate risk for a heart attack, and a cholesterol of greater than 240 is high risk for a heart attack. But in countries with a plant-based diet, all these values are shifted downward so that normal cholesterol is much lower. And the units for measuring cholesterol vary from one country to another. So if you live in Europe or Canada, the parameters for cholesterol are as follows. A normal cholesterol is below 5.2 millimoles per liter. The units are different. Low risk is 5.2 to 5.5 millimoles per liter. Moderate risk is 5.6 to 6.2, and high risk is greater than 6.2. It all depends on the units used for measure. It's kind of like the difference between using centimeters versus inches to measure length. You have to use the numbers that apply to the units. Now, cholesterol is fat soluble. That means it dissolves in fat or oil. But it doesn't dissolve in water. So, it's like an oil droplet in a glass of water. When I put this oil droplet in the water, they don't mix. Now, this is a problem because cholesterol needs to travel around your body in your bloodstream. But your blood is not fatty, it's watery. And cholesterol doesn't dissolve in your watery blood, which means that your cholesterol can't travel in your blood in its original form. So your body has vehicles to carry the cholesterol around. It's like they're little cholesterol chauffeurs. And these vehicles are called lipoproteins. Now remember, because your cholesterol can't dissolve in your blood, these lipoprotein vehicles have to completely surround the cholesterol in order to transport it. So they're like fully enclosed cars, no motorcycles or convertibles allowed. And there are two different types of lipoproteins. One type of lipoprotein is called high density lipoprotein, or HDL. HDL is large but lightweight. You see, the word density refers to the proportion of protein to lipid in a lipoprotein, not to the weight. HDL is so large that the cholesterol component is but a small portion of the whole structure. To demonstrate, I'll use this pearl to represent the cholesterol. And I'll use this balloon to represent the HDL. So the cholesterol is the passenger and the HDL is the vehicle. Now, if I insert the pearl into the balloon, we have the passenger in the vehicle. And when the cholesterol gets surrounded by the HDL, the weight of the whole thing is so minimal that it floats. It's actually buoyant. And because it's so large, it can't fit under the cells that line your arteries. This will not fit under these cells. And if it can't fit under the cells that line your arteries, it cannot collect in your arteries to create a kink or roadblock. So HDL just floats around your body, getting to places where your body needs it, and it does no harm at all. In fact, it does a lot of good. So the H in HDL stands for healthy. With HDL, the higher, the better. So the normal range for HDL is greater than 50 milligrams per deciliter. HDL greater than 60 is low risk for a heart attack. HDL between 49 and 59 is medium risk. And HDL less than 40 is high risk. Of course, depending on where you live, the units for HDL will vary too. If you live in Canada or Europe, it goes like this. The normal range for HDL is greater than 1.5 millimoles per liter. And an HDL greater than 1.5 is low risk for a heart attack. HDL between 1 and 1.5 is medium risk. and HDL less than 1.29 is high risk. Now, let's contrast this with the second type of lipoprotein, the second type of chauffeur. It's called low density lipoprotein, or LDL. Now, LDL is tiny but heavy. And again, the word density refers to the proportion of protein to lipid in lipoprotein, not to the weight. LDL is so tiny that the cholesterol component comprises a large portion of the whole structure. To demonstrate, I'll use this pearl again to represent the cholesterol. And I will use this metal washer to represent the LDL. So, the cholesterol is the passenger, and the LDL is the vehicle. And if I put the pearl inside the washer like this, the pearl gets completely surrounded by the LDL. And when I do that, the weight of the whole thing is so heavy that it sinks. It's just dead weight, like an anchor. And because it's so tiny and heavy, it can easily fit under the cells that line your arteries. And once it gets under the cells that line your arteries, it's so heavy that it stays there and collects, eventually creating a kink or a roadblock. See the difference? So LDL does not float around your body going to places where your body needs it. Instead, it collects in your heart arteries and forms roadblocks there. So it does no good at all. So the L in LDL stands for lousy. And just as with HDL, there are ranges of LDL that indicate your risk for heart attack. So here are the ranges for the United States. With LDL, the lower the better. A normal range for LDL is less than 100 milligrams per deciliter. A level of 100 to 129 is low risk. A level of 130 to 159 is medium risk. A level of 160 to 189 is high risk. And again, depending on where you live, the units for LDL may vary. If you live in Canada or Europe, it goes like this. The normal range for LDL is lower than 1.5 millimoles per liter. LDL lower than 1.5 is low risk. LDL between 1.5 and 4.9 is medium risk. And LDL greater than 4.9 is high risk. So the two different types of lipoprotein vehicles are very different in their abilities to cause a heart attack. You want a lot of the healthy HDL and very little of the lousy LDL. But when it comes to determining your risk for a heart attack, your individual values for total cholesterol, healthy HDL, and lousy LDL are not what's important. What's important is the ratio between your total cholesterol and your healthy HDL. So when you get your blood drawn for cholesterol studies, do this. Take your total cholesterol and divide it by your healthy HDL. That number is the most critical one for determining your risk of heart attack. So here's that equation. Total cholesterol over HDL. If that number is less than or equal to 4, you are at low risk for a heart attack. If that number is greater than 4, you are at high risk for a heart attack. So here's the equation again with those parameters. And this is true regardless of the units used to measure your lipids. The same ratio results apply no matter where you live. Okay, that just leaves the last type of fat, triglycerides. Triglycerides are stored fats. In other words, when you eat, your body converts the calories it doesn't need into triglycerides, and it stores those calories in your fat cells. If you need energy between meals, you release the triglycerides. So the best thing is to eat frequent small meals so that you don't store fat as triglycerides in the first place. The higher your triglycerides, the greater your risk of a heart attack. And here are the parameters if you live in the US. The normal range for triglycerides is less than 150 milligrams per deciliter. Between 150 and 199, it's medium risk. 200 to 499 is high risk, and greater than 500 is very high risk. In Europe and Canada, the ranges are as follows. Normal is less than 1.7 millimoles per liter. 1.7 to 2.2 is medium risk. 2.3 to 5.6 is high risk, and greater than 5.6 is very high risk. So there you have it. 4 types of fats, some good, some bad, some ugly. The key is to have more of the good ones and less of the bad ones. And then you won't have an ugly heart attack. I've made you a chart summarizing this. Actually, I've made you 2 charts, one for the United States values and the other for the European and Canadian values. You can just print the one you need for where you live, and you can find them both by clicking on the link just below this screen, or you can go to my website, which is menopausetailor.me, and find the charts there. So here's the US chart. I'll use it to describe what you see, and then I'll show you the same thing bearing the European and Canadian values. Across the top, you see all the different types of fats. You also see the ratio of total cholesterol to HDL in the center column. The second row designates the purpose of each fat. Then you have differing levels of risk for a heart attack, each with the range of laboratory values for each level of risk. And remember, you need to be fasting when you get your blood work for these fats. It's all fairly simple, but nice to have it all laid out in one place. So here's the chart for Europe and Canada. Okay, that's where I'll bid you farewell for today. If you need a one-on-one consultation about any of this or anything else for that matter, please go to menopausetailor.me. I do them for people everywhere. And you can also follow me if you want on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And I will see you in a week. Bye!